Trustee Malhotra, whenever you're ready, you can give him the signal.
All right, I think we're all ready. Are we doing the prayer tonight, or?
We can probably pass the prayer and the pledge since we're virtual.
Okay, gotcha. All right, I'm ready whenever everyone else is. Let us know when we're ready, when we're live, Jim. I guess I'll call this meeting to order at 6:08.
You all good, Jim? Okay.
All right, so first up, we have Mr. Corey with the fiscal office.
Yes, good evening, board. This evening you have some purchase orders totaling $914,000 and some change. The largest one there, as you notice, is the Warren County Sheriff's Office contract first payment for 2021. And I'll take any questions regarding those.
I have no questions.
I have no questions.
No questions. I'll make a motion.
Is there a motion?
To accept the purchase orders as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion by Trustee Heading and a second by Trustee Siciliano to approve the purchase orders as presented. Ms. Malhotra?
Yes.
Ms. Heading?
Yes.
Mr. Siciliano?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next, we have a supplemental appropriation, and obviously we do these almost every 3 to 6 months, but this one's an exciting one. It represents us eliminating our debt for 2020. This also represents the rollback that the Bank of New York had in their possession, almost a little over 18 million. And then we are allocating those funds in the various pots of our fund accounts that include helping to build our fire station, our administration building, multiple construction projects. And so this represents a lot of good hard work from the Deerfield Township team over many years. Also, there's a COVID virus relief fund. That's a last payment that we received from the county regarding the relief fund. I'll take any questions, and I'm sure you may want to comment about this one.
I have no questions, but it's exciting to finally, we've been talking about it all year and getting it all set up, and really we've been talking about it for years, except for 2020 and rolling back these steps. And it's exciting to finally have that money in our fund and we can be able to use it now. So thank you for everyone for all your hard work on getting all that done.
Yeah, I have no questions, but I'd also like to just reiterate what Trustee Malhotra said. Just it's exciting to be able to see, this the retirement of the TIFs and the debt that we've had, and be able to incorporate this money into future plans and things that we have going on in the community. So it's exciting, and thank you for everyone in the township has worked on this. Thank you, Mr. Corey. Thank you for kind of setting all these things in motion, and for us to finally be able to be at this point is pretty exciting. So, thank you.
So I think I'll just add that anybody who's listening at home, and I know there are people listening tonight to this meeting, they might not understand why we're thanking our admin for this momentous occasion. So Eric, can you maybe, or Dan, Mr. Corey, can you take a second and break down what this means? Because it's much more than just a quick thank you for people who aren't really following along and understand what a momentous occasion this is.
Yeah, so back in the mid 2000s, like 2007, 8, we had almost $40 million in debt. And back then, the administration team, Bill Becker for many of those years, and Lois McKnight, the assistant administrator, and now Eric Reiners has carried it on, has really tightened the belts. Many staff have sacrificed their salaries occasionally or certain benefits to allow us to be at this moment, because as we all know, in government, the largest portion of expenditures is salaries for fire and police and our administration team. The guys across the board really bought into this vision that we had of being debt-free, even though we had a quite a substantial debt. And so now we're sitting with no debt and about 24 million in investment funds. And then when we canceled the debt with the tax increment finances, that's a great tool to be used for economic development. But it also comes with a something that no one really talks about, and that is when you use it for economic development, you're taking the police and fire levy money and you're expending it into the roads and sewers of the area for economic activity. And so that's something that you got to be aware of. And so now we are eliminating that TIF. We had to have what was called coverage for the development agreement. So those $18 million that we talked about was covering our debt services. And now each one of our levies, road and bridge, fire, police, and parks, is getting basically an increase without asking the taxpayers to increase it by taking the money from the Deerfield Town Center tax payments, or from the movie theater, or from Walmart and all these areas around this area. And instead of them paying for the roads and all that went around the buildings, they're actually now putting it back into the fire, police, parks, and roadway. And I don't know, Eric, if I missed much there, but that's kind of what we're doing here. So it is big. It created when we look 10 years out, all of our funds, except for the fire levy, which has been stretched to 20 years instead of 10 years as we planned, are in the black. And the fire levy is in the black till 2026, 27. So we've even stretched that out to, like I said, almost 20 years from where we planned it to be a 10-year. May have been a little more than you wanted, Lau.
No, it really wasn't, Dan. Really what I hear you saying is that some of these big developments that many residents, old timers, felt very heartbroken about, and very untrustworthy, like they just didn't feel like they were being heard or trusted with where they live. These big developments have come to pay dividends now. They're going to continue to give back to the community with these closing, and that's a benefit to everyone. And I just wanted people to hear you kind of explain that and why we thought that was, such a big deal to close the TIF and the money's rolling back in. So thank you for that explanation. I hope I didn't butcher it, but I just thought for people listening at home, it would be beneficial to understand why we were thanking you for your hard work. Dan, you've served, 12 years and had a vision for this, and we appreciate that. And thank you for getting us here and explaining it to everybody.
This is great for the community, and happy to, if anyone wants to call, happy to explain it further, or Eric can explain it further, but it really is a good thing.
So is there a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 2020-71, the supplemental appropriations.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Siciliano and a second by Ms. Heading to approve resolution 2020-71. Ms. Malhotra?
Yes.
Ms. Heading?
Yes.
Mr. Siciliano?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
And the last thing I have, board, is a payment by resolution, and it's simply for a $1,200 payment from the fire department for Across the Street Productions. And if there's I'll take any questions you may have about that, but that's a simple payment by resolution.
I have no questions.
I have no questions.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 2020-72, the payment by resolution.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Siciliano and a second by Ms. Heading to approve resolution 2020-72. Ms. Malhotra?
Yes.
Ms. Heading?
Yes.
Mr. Siciliano?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
I have none.
I have none.
Okay. Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as is presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Siciliano and a second by Ms. Heading to approve the consent agenda as presented. Ms. Malhotra?
Yes.
Ms. Heading?
Yes.
Mr. Siciliano?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And then down to new business. So we're going to be discussing the CIPs, or is that under discussion?
Under discussion, no new business this evening. Just into the discussion, and you can take that away whenever you're ready.
All right. I think we're ready.
Okay. So I'm going to start with the capital improvement plan. You'll hear me reference CIP plan multiple times. These are plans, as you all are well aware, that we work off of each year for planning purposes in terms of which infrastructure and capital projects we're going to do. So the first one we're going to review is our capital improvement plan that falls underneath public works, primarily related to road and infrastructure projects. And to give me just a second, I'm going to share my screen. All right, everyone should be able to see the screen with the CIP list shown. And so I'm just going to start off and kind of start walking through.
I don't see it. Do other people see it? I'm sorry.
Yes, I see.
No. Okay, it's just me. That's fine. Go ahead.
Ms. Malhotra, this is the CIP list that should be in your packet as well. It's the one related to the roadways that has the different colored sections on it. If you want to follow.
Yep, I will. Yep, I can do that. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm going to start off. Obviously, you know, the Board of Trustees works to prioritize these infrastructure projects every year. And one that we have been working on, you know, as long as I can remember, is the Kings Mills Hamlet Infrastructure Improvement Project. And, you know, back in 2007, 2008, we started this project and, you know, we began the design and ended up in a position where funding was not available. We've continued to work on this project and tweak it. And, you know, as you all were mentioning the retirement of the TIF accounts, we are now in a position where we're able to fully fund this project without any assessments back to the residents in Kings Mills. And what the Kings Mills Hamlet Infrastructure Project is, it's a complete roadway replacement for all the roadways within Kings Mills. I'm actually going to pull up a phase map quickly so you can see that while I'm talking. So all of these roads which are highlighted on this map, and you can see it's broken into phases. The project consists of roadway reconstruction, all new storm sewer throughout Kings Mills, replacement of the water main throughout Kings Mills, establishing safe and paved on-street parking areas, all curb and gutter roadways, sidewalk on one side of each street within Kings Mills, striped crosswalks, all new signs throughout Kings Mills. So it's a much needed improvement, and we're finally in a position where we can move this project forward. I know there have been a number of questions about other things taking place in Kings Mills, and one of the things we're working to do to address some safety concerns, they're primarily along King Avenue, which, as you all are aware, King Avenue is a county road. But we have a great working relationship with the county engineer's office and have had some conversations with the schools, and a couple of items have been brought to our attention about King Avenue. One of them is realigning this intersection where you can see my cursor going into the school parking lot with College. So we're going to do a roadway realignment there. So that's a safe intersection and it's not offset. The other item we're working on having designed are dedicated turn lanes along King Avenue. This old aerial doesn't show this entrance to the school where my cursor is, but there will be a dedicated left turn into that entrance and a dedicated left turn into this entrance to allow the motorists traveling King Avenue to pass through, but provide safe ingress for those people trying to access the school. Likewise, there will be a drop right turn lane heading westbound to turn into that school lot to get those people out of the flow of traffic there as well. Are there any questions from the trustees on kind of this Kings Mills project? I know we've received a number of emails recently, and we've had a lot of dialogue over that. I'm happy to dive into any of those questions if you have any off the top of your head.
So Eric, I wouldn't, if it's okay with Trustee Malhotra, I wouldn't mind just a couple things I have on this project.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't see Kristen, but Kristen, is that all right?
I'm here via phone still. I'm sorry. My computer has decided to freeze, but I'm called in via phone, so I'm listening. You can go ahead.
Thank you. So Eric, a couple things. I was talking to Ruth Fisher in detail about this area, and she brought a couple of concerns up that she's hearing from the neighbors in Kings Mills. So if it's okay, I just would like to get your feedback on that and maybe see what you already think on this situation. So one would be a possible, and that map may be helpful, I don't know, a possible stop sign at Oak in Miami. Could the township even do that, seeing as that it's a township road? So could we phase in a stop sign at Oak in Miami? I'm hearing that that's a speedway. That's some of the feedback that Ruth has gotten from the neighbors, that is a problem inside the hamlet itself.
Understood. Yeah, and I saw that in that email as well, and I had some conversation with Public Works earlier today. So we're going to go through and do an evaluation of all the stop signs. You know, we have them all loaded in our GIS and determine where we can install additional stop signs throughout Kings Mills. Stop signs are very explicit in the fact that they cannot be used to control speed. However, if it's at an intersection where a stop sign is warranted, we can definitely install a stop sign. So Public Works will be going out for the balance of this week, providing me with a map showing all the stop sign locations currently and a proposal on where to place additional stop signs. In the email I received, I was a little confused where it said Miami and Oak on the exact location, but we're going to review the entire layout of stop signs up there, and we'll be able to install them at the intersections where needed.
Thank you. That's quick. I didn't expect that answer, so thank you. The trustees, not speaking for all the trustees, I'm just alerting you, we got an email over the weekend about speed on King Avenue. That's not our road and we can't control that, but seeing as though we have a great relationship with the Warren County engineers, and we've talked several times in the past about getting radar boxes put up on either end of that road. I just wanted to see what your thought was on that, what the price would be, what the commitment would be, and would the Warren County engineers entertain an idea of putting radar boxes up there that we would maintain on their road?
Yeah, so following that email, Billy, who's on the call as well, Billy reached out and got some pricing on what the cost would be for installation of 2 of those radar speed limit signs. Roughly, with the purchase of the sign, post, and installation, for the pair, it's approximately $8,000. I did have a conversation with County Engineer's office, and, you know, again, it's a county road. At this point, they are not in a position where they're comfortable installing those on a county road, frankly, because they don't have them anywhere else on a county road. That being said, again, I think due to our good working relationship with them, they were okay with it if the trustees had a desire to purchase and have those signs installed and continue to maintain them in perpetuity. They were okay with us having those signs installed. Again, the cost is approximately $8,000. It is something we could do, but that would be a decision for you all. If you would like for us to pursue that and make that happen, we can probably get that done in fairly short order. We'd have to have some coordination with the engineer's office on the exact locations, and then have some utilities marked prior to that. And then Billy, I think lead time's probably somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks. Is that accurate on those? He's saying yes. So, but, with direction from the board, that's something we could do immediately following the first of the year.
I don't know if Kristen is still on. I can't see her. is that something that we could discuss during this meeting then and take action on if Trustee Malhotra is indeed maybe that caller on the line?
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
What do my fellow trustees think of that in regards to radar boxes on that road to check speed?
So that's, so that was, I guess, so we had the conversation that the Warren County Engineer's Office didn't want to set the precedent of setting radar because they don't have radar boxes anywhere else permanently. But if they're willing to put them up, if we maintain them, then, I mean, I think that's something that the residents there have been asking for quite a while. And if that's going to help with some of the concerns there, then I think it's something we should definitely look at.
One point of clarification, we would be responsible for the installation and maintenance. Just want to make that clear in case I didn't before.
You're saying, Eric, they would need to tell us where on that road we would install and we would maintain.
That is accurate, correct.
I would like to do this. I'd like Jim's feedback.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking my way through with like Trustee Malhotra, where if the county wants to stay away, but at the same time, when we have residents that have concerns and are legitimate concerns, and there is something that they feel that is something that would be able to improve their situation, that is not, beyond, reason in terms of cost and expense. I can see why that would be something that, we'd be interested in furthering. I don't know if that needs to be another conversation that Eric has with the county, or if that has already been done and it's basically up to the three of us saying yes or no. I mean, he can always speak to that, but anytime we get a chance to help people in our community, I think that's it's important for us to consider doing that. So, Eric, is this one of those things where it's kind of, we need to spend a little bit of time talking about this, or is this something that, we should go ahead and just say, yes or no?
Yeah, so I've already had the conversations with the county. I don't need a formal vote from the board. If I have clear direction from the consensus, and it sounds as if I do, we'll proceed with, getting the final quote for the signs. I'll proceed with working with Billy to get a coordination meeting with Greg Carmack on exact locations. And then at our January 5th meeting, you all would approve the purchase order for those signs.
I like that idea, so I would be a yes on that. Are we giving Eric direction to move forward with the engineers?
Yeah, let's, I'm good with exploring it, giving Eric direction to go forward with, talking with him. I'd like to see how much it's going to be before I, make the final, yes, we're going this route. But to start, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, the cost I can tell you is $8,000 and some change.
Okay.
For both?
Yep.
For each?
For the
Okay.
pair.
For the pair, that's not bad.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Especially to alleviate, some concerns of our residents there.
So, Eric, while you are talking about sending a message over to the engineers, do you mind if I ask you a couple other things to look into from conversations I've had up there?
Not at all.
Coming out of Walnut, just the neighbors, I feel like their biggest concern and challenge is getting out of their neighborhood. They're, we're going to put those radar signs up maybe, hopefully in the future, and we're going to assess everything within the actual hamlet, but getting out has become extremely problematic. It's been suggested more than once that maybe a light at Walnut would alleviate that problem. And I don't know what other kind of problem that might create for the engineers, but can we do an ask on what that would look like at that intersection there, since we're hearing so often, so frequently, so much from the residents of the hamlet that they cannot get out of their neighborhood?
Absolutely, yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. This is really us asking the county engineer's office to evaluate that intersection. I understand if people are trying to leave the hamlet and head westbound, it could be very tough at times. And I think the only way to control that would be by signalizing an intersection. Let me switch back to my map quickly. So on College, I don't believe that could be a controlled access or signalized intersection simply because of close proximity to the proposed roundabout. Oak, I don't believe could be signalized because the skew going into Riverwalk. So that really only leaves Walnut to evaluate in terms of signalization. The evaluation would have to look into the timing of the Columbia signal and the signal at Kings Island Drive to determine whether or not it could happen. And the feasibility study would have to address whether a signal is actually warranted there. But I can definitely have that conversation with the county engineer's office to see if we can have a traffic engineer, maybe TEC or someone study that intersection to determine whether or not we could get a signal in there.
Thank you. I think they would really appreciate getting some feedback on that exit there. I know I go up there during the day and I have no problem, but I'm not up there at rush hour every day or when school lets out trying to get out of the hamlet. So I'd appreciate that. And then let me ask you something else. You just brought something else to mind. There's a sign that's on the other side of Columbia. Well, on the far, I don't know if that's the far or the near side to the hamlet, telling trucks that they can't pass any further, but they are, and they're not seeing it. And I know they're trying to catch truck traffic, I'm assuming off of Columbia before it gets any further, but it seems to me like we could either use another sign on the other side of Columbia. Are you following me? Because I have in my head, it makes perfect sense, but I'm not sure if you're following me. I'm wondering if there needs to be a sign on the other side of Columbia catching those trucks coming off of 71 before they cross Columbia and head down, King Avenue into the hamlet where they shouldn't and can't.
No, I'm following you. Yeah, the flashing sign would be on the east side of Columbia along King Avenue. I think what you're saying is, could there be another sign further west to catch those trucks before they get past Columbia and are forced to turn around somewhere in the hamlet? We can work with county engineer's office and Greg Carmack to determine if there's any additional signage that can go, further west of the Columbia intersection. That's another ask we can make of the county.
I know it would be for a limited time, but if that's 2 years, that would probably ease some of the problems in the hamlet for the meantime.
Yeah. Correct.
And I think the only other thing I just wanted to touch on is the timing. If our map is correct and nothing's changed from when you and I've talked last about this, projects inside the hamlet, phase 1 starts June of 2021. Is that correct? Is that timing still holding?
Yeah, so actual construction would begin sometime between June and August. Currently, we have survey work taking place out there still. Phase 1, which you can see from the map, I believe you all can still see that, which is in red. That's phase 1, which would begin the summer of 2021 and go into the spring of 2022. But yes, so that's the phasing you can see there. That's how all that's laid out. We will be, contacting the residents sometime after the first of the year to give them an update on what the profiles of the roadway are going to be, the needs for grading easements, temporary grading easements within their yards, so that we can tie the new roadway in. Obviously with creating these new parking areas and getting all the grades to work, we would be asking the residents for their assistance in providing those temporary grading easements throughout the project limits. And that will begin after the first of the year, late January, early February timeframe, and we'll be reaching out and having that conversation. But then you can see from this map, each subsequent phase will follow year after year. Utility relocation work will hopefully begin early spring in phase one, and then it'll basically head in early spring for each of these phases. So there will be a lot of continuous activity from 2021 through 2024 to complete all these phases. And primarily to go utility relocation, then construction, and then phase two, utility relocation, then construction, and they'll just keep leapfrogging one another. Did that answer that question in terms of time?
Yeah, I was just looking through some.
Yeah, one other thing I should point out, I briefly mentioned the turn lanes that we're looking at on King Avenue. That survey work is underway as well. And I think, Billy, they've been out there this week. Is that right? Doing their survey work. He's nodding yes. The turn lanes will get designed this year. However, we will end up most likely turning those plans over to the county and asking that those get constructed with the roundabout so that there's less disruption there along King Avenue. The college realignment, though, with the Schools Drive, we will do that this year. One other thing I should mention for this year, there was a request to clean up the school zone and the signage on Church. That's something else we'll be doing right after the first of the year. We have a proposal together to take to the board at the January 5th meeting for all of that work as well.
And can you speak for just a second and maybe distinguish for anybody listening the difference between the work the county's doing and the work that we're doing? I feel like the township is maybe getting lumped in with some decisions about this county project and their timing of things. Is there anything you can speak of to kind of clarify the difference between there and what might actually be happening at the same time? Because our project will happen months before the county starts doing anything at this point.
Yeah, so any of the work along King Avenue, obviously, as we all know, King Avenue is a county road. So the roundabout, the bridge project, those are all county-driven projects. All of our work is contained within the hamlet itself. The only exception to that would be what we just discussed. That's the installation of those radar box signs that you all just provided direction to have installed. Everything within the hamlet, is within township control. Everything on King Avenue is county's control. It's my understanding that the roundabout will begin in 2022. I do not know what month yet. They're still working on final design of that, but the roundabout would be in 2022, and so would those turn lanes on King Avenue. The bridge project timing, I believe portions of it are concurrent with the roundabout, but I do not have a formal schedule from the county. So that information would have to come from the county engineer's office. We don't have those hard dates.
Mr. Reiners, is that roundabout location set?
It is, yes, ma'am. Yeah, the roundabout location set, they've done that based off of their feasibility studies. Again, their survey's been conducted, traffic counts have been conducted. I believe the remaining design has to do with stormwater drainage and then now how it's tying into our storm system, which we are constructing. And then we kind of threw a little bit of a wrench in that due to the station termination points with where their scope stops and where the turn lane scope will begin. But the location, yes, is fixed.
Okay, I think I've covered all my notes for this project for now. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any questions from the other trustees on Kings Mills Hamlet before I move on?
No, I don't have any questions. Thanks for the work.
Yeah, I have no additional questions. Yeah, thanks, Lyle, for taking point on that and having that conversation with those residents and bringing their concerns forward.
All right, so I'm going to believe you all can now hopefully still see the CIP plan. So I'm just going to kind of run through these projects. We talked about college realignment and the turn lanes at the school and the timing of that. Irwin Simpson Pathway, this is a great project. We were able to receive, I believe, 80% funding through OKI, Transportation Alternatives Plan. This project will take a pathway along Irwin Simpson, essentially from the I-71 bridge all the way up to Mason Montgomery Road. So great connection. And again, 80% of that funding came from OKI. We'll be working with the Warren County TID to have them manage this project since it has federal funding involved. But in other good news, and Dan Corey, I don't know if he's still with us or not, but he and I had multiple conversations with ODOT, and ODOT is actually going to be doing kind of a maintenance project on the I-71 bridge. And as part of that, they will be building a pathway across the bridge for us. So we'll be able to connect Landon across 71 all the way up to Mason Road corridor. So great project. And Mr. Corey, I believe timing of that bridge maintenance is 2023. Is that accurate?
I believe it's 2023. It's a little ways off, but yes, you're correct. It will be a 5-foot sidewalk. The deck will not be widened, but the lanes will be a little thinner, and we will be able to get a pedestrian crossing 5 foot.
And another great thing with that, that's coming at no cost to the township. ODOT is going to be doing that work. We'll obviously do the tie-ins on each side, but ODOT will be doing that. So.
Correct.
That is a great, Dan, thank you so much for making that happen and having eyes on that project. For any of us who have walked across that bridge to get from Landon to Kingswood, and I can raise my hand, I've done it a few times, a lot of times. I think that Landon is going to be thrilled. And the only complaint is that 2023 is so far away to have to wait to have that pedestrian crossing over the bridge. Because that connection will lead straight all the way up to Mason Montgomery, walk up there, bike up there, hang out at the town center, head over to Cottel. It connects, it's a vital connection, vital. So thank you for doing that. I'm just so happy that you managed to find those funds and put this on our list.
Yeah. It has scored well with the connection that Eric just talked about with the federal funds for all of Irwin Simpson from that bridge to Mason Montgomery Road. So it was a easy conversation once we got all that pulled together. We just had to stay on top of ODOT.
Well, thank you for doing that. It is perfect. It is going to be incredible.
Definitely much needed.
All right, I'll move on down. Next on our list is the Parkway Drive extension. This is phase 2 of Parkway Drive, as you all know. This will most likely happen in 2022. Again, it's part of our expansion of the Parkway Drive. We built the connector piece. This is the next section of roadway over there, all of which is still moving forward. Happy to answer any questions on that if there are any. I think you all have seen those plans and know what that is. King Avenue Bridge replacement, we show that as a project. What that actually is a $25,000 match from Deerfield Township towards the OPWC funding portion of that. Our $25,000 is essentially providing the connection across King Avenue Bridge to connect Carter Park with Little Miami Bike Trail, which is a fantastic connection. The fact that we've been able to partner with the engineer's office on this, get that connection for $25,000 is a true cost to the township, will be a fantastic connection, and we're really excited to see that happen. Fields Erdel widening between Mason Montgomery and Snyder. So this project is moving forward, primarily driven by Hamilton County Engineer's Office. You see I have a few dollars set aside there. That's for pedestrian connections along that section of roadway. Mr. Corey, is there anything? I know you've been involved with this on the other side. Anything you want to add on that one?
Yeah, it's going to be 5 lanes with the township committing the dollars for constructing the sidewalk on the north side on Deerfield's side. Hamilton County is undetermined right now whether they'll be providing the sidewalk, but I applaud the Board of Trustees for taking the lead and providing it. And I can tell you that I've gotten quite a few calls from various people. And when I mentioned the sidewalk, everyone is really excited about having that sidewalk go all the way from Snyder, all the way over to Wilkins. And then also we're working on the Wilkins area to tie it on into the Home Depot and Escort area. So it will also connect north on Snyder to Cross Creek subdivision, so that we've extended the project a little bit north, and the Warren County TID and Warren County Engineer's Office actually is leading that, Eric. And so, but yes, it is all going well 5 lanes with curb and gutter, and the vertical alignment will be slightly tweaked to allow, as you know, it kind of is a roller coaster out there in front of the synagogue and Polk Run and all, and that will be lessened as part of this project as well.
Okay, Dan, part of this project, will that realign where Wilkins comes in and out, or where traffic is going from Wilkins?
So the project you may be mentioning is the number 14, or no, excuse me. It is actually not shown here, but there is a Wilkins number 13.
It's 14.
Yeah, 14. Okay. Wilkins to Bardis to Escort. Wilkins to Bardis to Escort is a dual roundabout system that will take and reroute Wilkins away from the Fields Erdel Wilkins intersection and actually route traffic onto Escort. The southbound entrance ramp, there's a lot of action going on down in this interchange area still, but southbound entrance ramp that comes off of Mason Montgomery Road that is going to go right in front of the BP and actually make BP no longer in existence, sweep to the right behind the hotels and go up and connect into the existing southbound entrance ramp system. That project starts in 2021. That project will take a lot of traffic off of Escort. So if you can imagine with drawing down and leaving extra capacity on Escort, we're going to push that traffic through a dual roundabout system from Wilkins to Bardis to Escort, and so that people going southbound will really have two ways. One, Wilkins quickly, as well as Mason Montgomery Road, which will be 7 lanes going into that southbound new entrance ramp.
So will people still be able to make a left from Wilkins onto Fields Erdel?
No, we're really going to encourage them. Actually, if they want to go left, they'll go in a roundabout at Wilkins and Bardis, and then a roundabout at Bardis and Escort. You will not, and part of the reason why we're eliminating the lefts out at Wilkins is because if you've ever been at the intersection, which I'm sure we all have, it's what we call a split phase. It's extremely long signal because it has to cycle through everyone. The Ameristop gas station driveway is offset to Wilkins, and so therefore you have to cycle each side. And so the main reason the signal's actually going back up is to provide pedestrian crossing from the south side of the sidewalk system that's being built to the subdivision to the north side. There was really nowhere to cross them safely, and so it's really actually going up for pedestrian use primarily.
So Dan, if Hamilton County is not on board right now, does that Ameristop or gas station right there, is that stay? That entry stay? Does it become right in, right out? Like what happens to that?
The gas station stays with full access. The Wilkins becomes right in, right out, left in. The only thing we're prohibiting is left out. So that way the roundabout system that we're building is actually what we're going to be encouraging people to use. There was multiple reasons with the left out. With 5 lanes, left outs are difficult to cross all the lanes. So we are hoping that we're requiring that someone going southbound on Wilkins will hit a roundabout at Bardis and a roundabout at Escort. If they're going, of course, they have Passport, that private drive that goes between O'Charlie's and Home Depot. So they'll still be able to get to those businesses. So the accessibility and mobility is still all there, various ways. It's just the left outs at Wilkins, which is the primary use of that signal. In other words, if the left outs were gone, there was no reason, the signal wasn't warranted. And the whole reason why the signal went back and was reinstalled was because at one time we had eliminated it in the process, and we now put it back because we could not get pedestrians across safely. We were going to look at a mid-block crossing for pedestrians, but we felt like the safety was better served at the intersection where people are used to stopping. And then also we extended the sidewalk up Wilkins on the existing. Now that we have an extra lane on Wilkins, we extended the sidewalk on that existing lane so that we don't get into those pine trees. And we are putting that system into the existing system on Wilkins, so you can go from Field Zertle all the way up to Sociable Foster on Wilkins. So it's multifaceted, and we are being cognizant of both the vehicular traffic as well as pedestrian. There's a lot of people that walk down there, as you probably well know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be good to get those sidewalks in there.
Yeah. All right, thank you. I'm sorry. You saying something, Trustee Malhotra?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. All right, so moving on down, Western Row Road Safety Improvements at Sociable Foster intersection. This is something we've been talking about with County Engineer's Office in terms of that Sociable and Western Row intersection, trying to determine if a roundabout would improve the safety there. And then also the humps as you go further down Western Row. This project, we're still in conversations with the County Engineer's Office on finding a solution to that. But we do have an open IGA with them. We have committed $75,000 towards the study for the Western Road portion last year. And we have another $250,000 committed this year, but those funds will not move forward until further conversations have been had with the Engineer's Office. Mr. Corey, can you mute, please? I think I'm getting some feedback from yours, maybe. Thank you. So Western Row Road we're looking at, but still had a lot of conversation to be had there. And then kind of the last one that is committed is the Plainview Sanitary. This is a project that's been talked about for years and years. As you know, the township was able to provide a portion of what was considered to be Plainview Sanitary along Irwin Simpson, Auburn, East and West Plain, but it ended at Butler Warren. I was contacted early in the year by Warren County Water and Sewer Department about continuing that system north on Butler Warren to pick up the folks on Plainview. And the dollars that are allotted there, it's the same kind of allotment per property that we had for the folks on Auburn, East and West Plain. So if that moves forward, we do have money set aside for that and have made that verbal commitment back to Warren County Water and Sewer. The next series of projects in yellow, I'll just kind of quickly hit those. These are projects that we're currently discussing. Obviously, Columbia Road is a big topic of conversation right now. And this is Columbia between 22 and 3 and Field Zertle. Starting off with a dedicated drop right from Columbia onto 22 and 3. Safety funding was sought by the County Engineer's Office for that. I think they'll be going after it again in the future, but there were some issues with safety funding and overcommitment of that this last time around. Next one is the intersection of Davis and Myrtle. Obviously, very dangerous intersection. We've continued to see traffic increase there. Everyone acknowledges it's a safety concern, and we have data to support that. And then the full blown is basically the widening from Field Zertle to 22 and 3. As you can see, we have $2 million set aside for this. We have a meeting scheduled with County Engineer's Office. I believe it's second week of January to sit down and talk about, an IGA where we would make the commitment of the $2 million. Obviously, that doesn't fund the entire project, but the conversation will be to determine if the county engineer and the TID could lump this into a program of projects. Then I would come back and ask the board to take those dollars so we can proceed with getting these much needed safety improvements done in that area. Kings Mills bike trail, and please feel free to cut me off at any time, board, if there are any questions. Kings Mills bike trail connection, Joel and Bill.
Sorry, Eric.
Yep.
But the Columbia Road, I know we have it broken out in different line items. We had talked about just what if we did just the right turn lane. And I thought we were pretty close to that. Do you know what happened to that project? Did funding go away on a different front? Because I thought we had talked about that a board and moving forward with just that segment.
Yeah, so the county took lead on that, obviously Columbia being their road, and they sought safety funding for that turn lane project. There was an issue with the state's safety funding program where they were overcommitted and didn't have the funding available to build it this year. So they'll go after it again next year to try to get that one done.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Kings Mills Bike Trail connection, Joel, Billy, and I put together an application for state capital funding. That was on hold due to the pandemic. However, they have started reevaluating state capital funds again. This would connect from the termination point with the Kings Mills Bridge up through Carter Park. It would be a nice paved connection all the way up, some grading to make that work, some pull-offs with benches and things. So we're awaiting word on state capital funding for that. Columbia Road, that's the section in front of Kings High School. There will be a widening needed there at some point, and we'll be doing that in conjunction with improvements with the school district in future years. Wilkins, Bardsfield, Zertle, you heard Mr. Corey speak to that. Davis and Rich, those are projects way down the list. Obviously, Columbia is our main focus right now. Those are projects we would discuss once Columbia was addressed. Gateway Landscaping, minor project, but it's something we have on our list. I'm happy to answer any other questions that you may have on the CIP list in front of you. All right, if there are none, I'm going to switch over to the Parks Department CIP list. Okay, so as you know, we've been working to make significant improvements to various parks, and Joel does a fantastic job of maintaining the parks, and we've seen tremendous growth in our park system over the past 10 years, and in terms of A, acquiring parks, and then B, expanding the amenities in those parks. And a lot of that, Joel has been able to do with his existing park levy. And then we also were able to leverage some of those TIP funds that we've talked about over the years to make many of those amenity improvements throughout the parks. But for 2021, I'll hit some of these projects. So a north parking lot at Kingswood, this would go on the parcel that the township purchased on the north side of the property. We're having a rain garden designed, which would go in the Civic Facilities parking lot, which is currently being designed, scheduled to break ground sometime after the first of the year. The pond project, this is to convert the detention basin on the south side of Innovation Way to a retention basin, meaning a wet pond. So we're working on that. As you know, many of the pathways throughout the park need pipes replaced, the old golf cart paths. And Joel and Billy worked with the service department to have some of that work done this year, but that'll be completed next year as part of this. I have an item in there listed as Kingswood Swings. This was something we were evaluating. We'll be coming back to the board to determine if that's an amenity that's really sought, or if we should shift those dollars down to the invasive species removal. But we do have a placeholder in there for the evaluation right now. Fountain at the Big Lake. So this is the main lake within Kingswood Park. So we're going to put a fountain in that lake to keep that water moving and hopefully not get the buildup of vegetation we have there. As you know, Joel has been working very closely with the Cincinnati Nature Center. And as part of that, we had done a portion of the invasive species removal. We have dollars allotted this year for the removal and the maintenance of the section where it was already done. Multi-purpose building renovations. This is the former barn that was there. I call it barn, the building that's next to the pavilion. Joel is working with KZF on that, and the goal is to remodel that building, replace those overhead doors, and turn that into a community space there. He's got some great ideas for that, and I know we've talked about this as a group before, and we're really excited to get that going so that the public can use that building for events, classes, programs, camps, meetings, things like that. So Roberts Park Pathway Extension, this is going from the new parking lot up at Roberts Park to tie into one of the trails. Joel already had one of these connections complete, but this is the second one there. Another project we're evaluating are security cameras at the parks. This is something we'll be bringing back to the board for consideration sometime in the first quarter of 21. Joel's working closely with a vendor on that to give us some options and try to drill down pricing on that. We are installing some additional lighting at Cattell Park this year, make those parking lots a little safer at night. And then, as you all know, many of the public members may not, but the township last year did acquire the former Jeremiah Morrow barn, and we will begin kind of stabilization of that, meaning going in, kind of gutting some of those items in the barn that take away from the historic value, stabilizing the building itself, cleaning up the electric and water, and then preparing for future improvements in subsequent years. So those are the 2021 projects. Are there any questions on any of those from the Board of Trustees?
For the north parking lot at Kingswood, how many spots are we talking?
I don't have that number yet, to be perfectly honest with you. We do not have it designed at this point, so I don't have an exact number of parking stalls just yet.
For a while there, we were discussing, there was someone who was interested in putting like a little like restaurant market type thing, also sharing the space in that parking lot. Has that gentleman gone away? Are we still in talks about that?
No, he has gone away. We talked through many things with him, and we basically ended at a point where it wasn't advantageous for the township to continue to pursue that. I think there was a desire to see that expansion further onto the township property, and it would have caused some pretty extensive grading and changes onto the Kingswood property. So no, that is now off the table.
Well, that means more parking spaces. So
that does mean more parking spaces, correct. However, that doesn't mean there's not a possibility in the future to provide those types of kind of economic development / amenity options on or near that north parking lot.
I'll just thank Joel. I mean, he's done a phenomenal job with all of these projects, what he's already been accomplishing, and some of these new ideas. I look forward to seeing some of the little more specifics of some of the ideas that he has going on. But yeah, I'm a huge Joel fan, so he's doing a great job. Thanks.
Oh, trust me, Joel's got plenty of ideas.
I think we're all huge Joel fans. So we clearly have a lot going on, and I like to see that we're doing a lot. We're helping to make Kingswood, our premier park. So it makes sense that we've got a lot of improvements going on there, which I like to see.
All right. So as you can see, and I'm not going to run through all the 2022 and 23 projects, but again, as the board has seen and the public can see, we do plan these projects out. And as we evaluate them on an annual basis, some move up, some move down. But there is a plan in place to, continue the improvements within the parks, similarly to our roadway system. And, a big kudos to all of our staff for all the work that goes into these CIP plans. It's one thing developing the plan, seeking funding, a lot of outside funding for all these various projects and the grants and outside funding that we receive, and then taking the projects from this list and implementing them. So big kudos to our entire team for all the work and organizing these, preparing these, and then on to the next phase of implementing them. So one other item that I'll briefly mention in terms of CIP, we had a meeting about a week ago, I believe. We are developing a third CIP plan, which relates to pedestrian pathway and sidewalk connections throughout the township. That's something we'll be bringing to the board again in first quarter of 2021. And the goal is to begin making some of the infill connections throughout the township. So we'll be prioritizing a 10-year project for many of those connections. And that will tie into discussion with funding as it's related to the motor vehicle license fee and utilizing some funding that we have the ability to tap into to make those much needed connections for the community. So, are there any other questions on our CIP lists from the trustees? All right, I'll turn it back over to you, Trustee Malhotra.
All right, thanks. If there is nothing else to share, I will go ahead and make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All right, motion by Ms. Malhotra, second by Mr. Siciliano to adjourn at 7:08 p.m. All in favor, please say aye.
Bye.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good evening.
Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.